The grand arena of Zorath 9 was a spectacle of light, sound, and danger. Towering spires of crystalline architecture reflected the twin suns of the system, casting shimmering rainbows across the stands. The air buzzed with the hum of thousands of alien species, their voices a cacophony of clicks, growls, and melodic tones. At the center of it all was the arena floor, a vast expanse of sand and stone, where the galaxy's most fearsome creatures were pitted against its bravest, or most foolish warriors. Princess Lyra of the Zorathian Empire sat in her royal box, her iridescent scales shimmering with unease. Her violet eyes, large and luminous, scanned the arena below. She had seen many battles in her time, but today was different. Today, the creature in the arena was no ordinary beast. It was the dreaded Kraxxis, a monstrous predator from the darkest reaches of the galaxy. Its reputation was legendary, a creature so deadly that entire fleets had been lost trying to contain it. And yet, here it was, chained and snarling, its obsidian scales glinting like shards of night. But what truly unsettled Lyra was not the Kraxxis. It was the figure standing before it, a human. Humans were a relatively new addition to the galactic community. They were small, soft-skinned, and seemingly fragile compared to the other species. Yet they had a reputation for being unpredictable. Lyra had heard stories of humans surviving impossible odds, of their strange ability to adapt and overcome. But this was madness. The human, a male named Captain Elias Grant, stood calmly in the center of the arena. He wore no armor, carried no weapon. His only protection was a small device strapped to his wrist, a neural interface, Lyra realized with a start. The crowd murmured in confusion. What could a human possibly do against the Kraxxis? The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Ladies and gentlemen of the galaxy, prepare yourselves for a spectacle unlike any other. Today we witness the bravery or folly of a human who claims he can tame the Kraxxis. The crowd erupted in a mix of laughter and gasps. Tame the Kraxxis? Impossible. The creature was a force of nature, a living weapon. It had no mind to reason with, no instincts to exploit. It was pure, unrelenting fury. Lyra leaned forward, her heart pounding. She didn't know why, but she felt a strange connection to this human. Perhaps it was the way he stood, so calm and resolute, as if he had already won. Or perhaps it was the look in his eyes, a spark of something she couldn't quite place. Determination, hope, madness. The gates of the arena creaked open, and the Kraxxis was released. The creature lunged forward with terrifying speed, its massive claws tearing through the sand. Its roar shook the very foundations of the arena, and the crowd screamed in terror. But Captain Grant didn't flinch. He raised his wrist, and the neural interface began to glow. The Kraxxis was upon him in an instant, its jaws snapping shut inches from his face. But then, something extraordinary happened. The creature froze. Its eyes, burning with rage, seemed to flicker. The neural interface pulsed with light, and Captain Grant closed his eyes, his brow furrowed in concentration. The crowd fell silent. Even Lyra held her breath. The Kraxxis let out a low, guttural growl, but it didn't attack. Instead, it slowly backed away, its movements hesitant, almost confused. Captain Grant opened his eyes and took a step forward. The Kraxxis flinched but didn't retreat. It watched him warily, its massive head tilting as if trying to understand. "It's working," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "He's actually doing it." Captain Grant extended a hand, his movements slow and deliberate. The Kraxxis sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, It lowered its head and nuzzled his palm. The arena erupted in chaos. Cheers, screams, and cries of disbelief filled the air. Lyra stood, her hands pressed to her mouth. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Human had done the impossible. He had tamed the galaxy's deadliest creature. But the spectacle wasn't over. Captain Grant climbed onto the Kraxxis's back, his neural interface still glowing. The creature let out a roar, but this time it wasn't a roar of anger. It was a roar of triumph. Together they circled the arena, the human and the beast, a symbol of unity and strength. Lyra felt tears welling in her eyes. She had never seen anything so beautiful, so inspiring. In that moment, she realized that humans were not just unpredictable. They were extraordinary. Later, in the royal chambers, Lyra requested an audience with Captain Grant. He entered, still wearing the simple clothes he had worn in the arena. Up close, he looked even more unassuming. A man of average height, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. But Lyra could see the fire in those eyes. The same fire that had tamed the Kraxxis. "Captain Grant," she began, her voice soft but steady. "What you did today, it was incredible. How did you do it?" He smiled, a small, humble smile. "It's all about understanding, Your Highness. The Kraxxis isn't just a mindless beast. It's a creature of instinct, of survival. My neural interface allowed me to communicate with it, to show it that I wasn't a threat. Once it understood that, it was willing to listen." Lyra shook her head in amazement. "But no one has ever been able to do that before. Why you? Why a human?" Captain Grant chuckled. "Humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. We may not be the strongest or the fastest, but we're stubborn. We don't give up. And sometimes that's enough." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had never met anyone like him. "Captain Grant," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "you have shown us something truly remarkable today. You have shown us that even the most fearsome challenges can be overcome with courage and understanding. I would be honored if you would stay here on Zorath 9 as my guest. There is much we could learn from you." Captain Grant bowed his head. "The honor would be mine, Your Highness." As they spoke, Lyra felt something shift within her. She had always believed in the strength of her people, in the power of their empire. But now she saw that there was more to strength than weapons and conquest. There was compassion, curiosity, and the willingness to see the world and its creatures in a new light. And it was a human who had shown her that. In the weeks that followed, Captain Grant became a beloved figure on Zorath 9. He worked with the scientists to study the Kraxxis, sharing his knowledge and helping them develop new ways to communicate with other dangerous creatures. He also spent time with Lyra, teaching her about Earth and its people. In turn, she shared the wonders of her world, and the two grew close. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city, Lyra turned to him. "Elias," she said, using his first name for the first time, "do you ever miss your home?" He smiled, his eyes distant. "Sometimes. But I think I've found a new home here." Lyra's heart swelled with joy. She reached out and took his hand, her scales shimmering in the moonlight. "Then stay," she whispered. "Stay with me." Captain Grant looked into her eyes, and for a moment, the galaxy seemed to stand still. "I will," he said softly. "For as long as you'll have me." And so, the human who had tamed the galaxy's deadliest creature found a new purpose. And